So I finally finished listening to the audiobook Tempest Runner by Kevin Scott. So here are some of my spoiler-free thoughts on it. So let's get straight into it. Tempest Runner is an audiobook exclusive High Republic story that runs for approximately 6 hours, and I have to say it was a pretty decent story. The soundtrack and sound effects were amazing. It's such an incredibly well produced story, and the sound effects and design in the background really help elevate this to another level. I will say, however, that the wookie sound effects that the audiobook has is severely lacking. Although this isn't too much of an issue, as wookies aren't exactly the main focus of the story. There are plenty of John Williams moments that really bring in the feels, but the newer music does remind you that this is indeed a story that revolves heavily around the Nile. For most of the book, the story is told through conversations and flashbacks from various characters, both old and new. The voice actors all did an amazing job being able to construct entire scenes solely using their voices. Jessica Almasi, who plays Lorna D, was particularly amazing at her portrayal of the character, able to convey menace and sensitivity from one moment to the next. So, should you buy it? Well, it depends. If you're a fan of Lorna D and the Nile, then I highly recommend that you pick up this audiobook. Since Lorna D is the protagonist, there were plenty of moments for character exploration. You will really get to find out who she really is. And as the story goes on, there are plenty of twists and turns that will really make you empathize with her character and add a lot of color to one of the most influential leaders of the Nile. What you will find is that the Lorna D that we are all familiar with begins to whittle down little by little as she begins to make new connections with the people around her, and the story really leaves you on the edge of your seat just wondering how everything will play out. Another thing to note is that if you're not used to audiobooks like me, it can be a little confusing as to who is who. A lot of new characters are introduced in a very short period of time, and given that a lot of them sound very similar, it can be really confusing. There are also plenty of jump forwards and backwards in time, so getting used to these jump cuts may take a while, and I certainly had to replay moments from time to time in order to understand just what was happening. Nonetheless, the originality of the story and writing is really something to be commended. There were plenty of unforgettable character and plot moments that will undoubtedly make this a very memorable book. The amount of backstabbing and friend making does make your head spin with too many characters, but they are still pretty fun to listen to. More importantly, Tempest Runner delivers such an entertaining experience that it really makes you wonder what happens next, especially at the end of the book where our characters have been through so much that you wonder what they will do in the next subsequent High Republic stories. It is also not the most action-packed book. Despite being focused on Lorna D, there isn't a whole lot of action, but the most exciting parts are usually at key character moments and turning points. So if that style is right up your alley, then I highly recommend it. Interestingly, whatever happens to Lorna D in this book will undoubtedly change the Nile for the better or worse, depending on which side you're on. In terms of its impact on the overall era of the High Republic, it is still pretty important despite being a spin-off in the grand scheme of things. So if you want to know everything that is going on in the High Republic era, I definitely recommend this book. That's all for today's video. Be sure to like and subscribe, and I will see you in the next video. I am the Lost Acolyte,
and I have spoken.